Hi there, Mr. Chocolate Salmon. This is Dev Brew for you. This is where I take a game and then give you game design feedback. So this is an unlisted video. It's hosted on my YouTube site. It's hosted on my YouTube channel called Games Over More Coffee, not the main channel, not Games Over Coffee, in case you needed to know that for some reason. You can share this video if you want to. You certainly don't have to. It's just up to you. It's a private video for you. So so we're going to talk about The Lonely Cyborg, and this is my cardboard up here. It's blocking light from my background. I have my coffee here, but I already drank a bunch. That's probably why I'm so hyper at the moment. You can tell, look at my face. I'm super hyper right now. So The Lonely Cyborg. So this is a really interesting game because the movement mechanics are just a lot of fun. So I say that with an asterisk. It's a lot of fun. I told you on the Discord that this game made me rage quit a couple times. It's because the movement, man. The movement was it got in the way sometimes. But I can tell you, man, when I finished the game, I was just like, yes. First thing I want to talk about is the good stuff. So I love the storytelling in this game. It's just kind of a vague story that is just there. I was writing down a summary of what this game is, and like the story instantly came to me. It was just like super easy to figure out. I was thinking back on it. I was thinking, oh yeah, I guess you're a cyborg of some sort. Maybe you're in a space station that then blows up, probably because it's under attack, and so you have to get to an escape pod. And that just I just love the context there because it just makes everything make sense. And you don't have to like tell a story like with text or anything. It's perfectly done in that way. So I really appreciate that. That was really cool. The movement was pretty fluid. I like that it wasn't like there was one bug. I'll put a clip up here. This was really strange. I don't know if this was on purpose or not. I was like, oh, is that a secret passage? I'm not sure if it is. I think that's just a bug. The reason why this game made me rage quit sometimes is because of the movement mechanics. So this game reminded me of N++. And what was really neat about it is that you took control of this little character who was a ninja, and they jump around in these single screen action levels basically, and you just try to get to the exit. So it was basically the same thing that you're trying to do here, where you have this crazy deep mechanic that you then utilize to try to navigate around hazards to get to the exit. Now, I know that's kind of the idea of many platformers, but it reminded me of that game because I think specifically because the mechanic is so deep. The mechanic that you have here is really, really deep, meaning that you can use it for just about any kind of thing. So the first time that I played the game, I had no idea what I was doing because the tutorial was very sporadic. Like it didn't seem to lead me very well. And so while I was playing the game, I was really trying to just figure out how to move without like hurting myself. That was most of the game for me. Most of the game was trying to figure out how to navigate, basically, how to master the mechanics. And the reason why I bring up in is because in that game is full of mechanic mastery. Like that's what the game is about. That's the entire game, is mastering the mechanics. And the reason why it's called N, I think, is because N stands for ninja. And it's funny because the character himself doesn't look like a ninja. There's no aesthetically similar things with ninjas anywhere in that game whatsoever. It's a very abstract form of a ninja. But the reason why it still feels like a ninja, feels like you can call it a ninja, is because when the player is playing the game, they're using super high jumping, velocity control, wall cleaning, and wall jumping. All of these things that come together to form this kind of tool set that they can use at their disposal. And if you know that ninjas are all about that kind of thing, about moving in the shadows, and being really fast and everything. So it really makes you feel like a ninja when you're playing that game because of the mechanic mastery. When I first played The Lonely Cyborg, it was really difficult, like I said, for me to move around. And it got to the point where I was just like, I'm not sure if this is even possible to do what you want me to do. And so I looked at the trailer that was provided on the game's page and saw that wow, yeah, there's quite a bit of movement in here. Like the person who's playing this, I assume it's you, is mastering the mechanic. Like they're moving around all the, like, dodging missiles and like pulling themselves toward corners and stopping themselves when they need to. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I want to be able to do that. And so with that mindset, I went into the game and tried to figure out how I could master the mechanics enough to make me feel like the mechanics weren't a hurdle for me. And I think that's the thing that really makes or breaks this game, because this game as a whole is based on navigation, is based on getting the player from one side to the other. And unfortunately, it feels like the mechanic itself is a hazard, like is a challenge. And it shouldn't be. It should be a tool set, right? It shouldn't be a challenge. The mechanic that you have here is shooting the hook shot and pulling yourself directly toward that thing, whatever it is. The problem with that is that hitting that object causes you to lose health, which causes you to lose time. What you have is you have your air that is diminishing, and then when you get hit by a wall or get hit by a missile, then that also lowers your air or your blood loss, or yeah, I guess it's blood loss, maybe it's not air. Anyway, either way, it's a timer that works against you, so it means you have to go fast. But it's also health, which means you have to navigate slowly and cautiously. So you have to do both of these things at the same time. It's a lot to throw at the player all at once to tell them, hey, you have to go really fast, but also you have to navigate pretty carefully. So do that. And the person goes into there not knowing what they're doing and then dies pretty easily. And that might invigorate them to continue, just based on the kind of person that they might be. They might look at that kind of challenge and be like, okay, well, I'm going to try to do this and try to beat the game. But if they're not that kind of person, if they're just the kind of person that, is interested in this kind of mechanic and they try it and it's just not working out, they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave the game. What you need in this instance is to master your mechanics, right? You need to understand exactly the tool set that you have and exactly how to use those mechanics in order to get from one place to another so that it doesn't become a hurdle. What I think needs to happen is what I think needs to happen in basically every game, and that's incremental teaching. And what we have here right now, what the game is, you have a game that's testing the player rather than teaching them. And I think teaching is the key in order to bring on more people, in order to get someone to play your game and stay there and continue and really build a love for it. I think you want to teach them. I think the whole game should be about teaching, basically. In order to do that, to teach the player, start with the idea that they could just experiment all they want without hazard. I would want like an area for the player to just kind of mess around in. I'd want to start out with a level that the player can swing around using only one type of hookshot, just the one that doesn't propel them forward, but rather just one that makes them hang or something like that. And just using that, have them navigate like a little area or something like that. And then after that, after they complete that area, then have another area that they can navigate, but using the different hookshot, right? And then have another area that has hazards in it, and this time they have to get around the hazard. And then have another area that has no gravity, and then another area that has switching gravity. If you increment each of these things and the player learns everything that they can, then by the end of it, they'll feel like they have mastered the technique, or at least have a tool set that they understand, so that by the time they get to a space that's really open and really dangerous, they feel like they can at least approach it, and they can be like, yeah, I understand what to do, I'm going to start doing that. So I really feel like incrementing these things in isolated little sections or little levels would be the best way to do it, because kind of just throwing the player to the sharks and just having them in this open world area, again, it does work kinda for that person who likes to experiment a lot, but for people who don't, it doesn't really work, right? It makes them feel uneasy because this game seems to be working against them, and some people, may not like that. If I were given the chance to redesign the game, that's what I would do. Is I would increment the teaching slowly, and I wouldn't just have them do one level per mechanic or something like that. Do it so that there's multiple levels per mechanic. There's one type of hookshot. Now navigate this. Now navigate this little bit more complex level. Navigate this little more complex level. Then add another layer of the tools. Now you have two different hookshots. Now navigate this, times 3. And then navigate this times 3. Like really slowly build their courage so that when they get to that, really difficult area, then they feel like they can approach it. I understand the game right now is basically like a tech demo where you play around with this mechanic. And if that's the kind of game that you want, this open world area, then I'd create, an incremented open world where you can play with all those little things in like one little area. And then once the player gets, comfortable enough with the mechanics, then they can go outside that area a little bit more, then a little bit more until, I don't know, the entire area blows up, with your intro that you had there. And then another way you could do this is make it basically an adventure game where you have different levels, that have different hazards and stuff. And I think with that kind of game design, with this kind of very slow teaching, and with that kind of mastery of mechanic, this mechanic that you have, again, like I said, is very deep. It can create some really, really cool, really emotionally driving moments in this game. I had moments in here that I felt so much like a badass, and I just wish that game was longer. I wish there was more to that game rather than just speedrunning. I'd want to create that into like a big, huge game, just a game that'd just be so much fun to navigate around, that has like a bigger story or something like that. But I feel like you're sitting on something here that is really, really big and really awesome. Like, I could definitely see this being a game that everyone would want to try. Granted, it was built for that kind of audience. Now, if that's something that you don't want to do, that's obviously not something you have to do. It's not. This is something that I felt like could be incremented, and it doesn't really have to be. When new players approach your game and they're getting the feeling that you want, then that's great. Then you've accomplished your task. You don't need to do anything more. If you want something different, then I would follow my game design advice and try to figure out something different, or make that for a new game or whatever. But the idea is, if you're creating an experience that you wanted from the beginning and you've achieved it, there's no reason to follow any more game design advice. There's no reason to change the game at all. But if it's not doing what you want, then start tweaking stuff. And so I think that's pretty much it, because you have so many things nailed down here. Except for the tutorial, which I'm not really going to go over, because if you redesign the game in its entirety, where we talk about incremental teaching, that basically is a tutorial at that point. If you wanted to talk about a tutorial with an open world system, that takes a lot more work. That's something that would take hours and hours and probably days to try to figure out. Not something that I can cover in this video. But yeah, if you're wondering how to do something like that, message me again and we'll see if we can work something out. But that's basically it. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So thanks again for submitting The Lonely Cyborg. I had a question about the game music. I was wondering how you guys made it, because I was like, I used to make video game music, believe it or not. I just noticed some quantization things in that song. So I was wondering if it was like a live performance or if it was something that was made in like GarageBand or something like that. I just was curious. That was all. So thank you, Mr. Chocolate Salmon, for giving me this game. Again, you can share this video if you want to. You certainly don't have to. This is a video just for you. Do what you'd like. So thank you so much for sitting here and listening to me talk. And I'll talk to you another time on the Discord, perhaps.